Hey guys, so Necron week has come to an end.
Yes.
You've managed to annoy many, inspire some, and are loved by a few.
And I'm really worried about it.
I know you are. I know you are. Anyway, that wraps up Necron week, but it by no means wraps up our Necron coverage, because we have still army lists to do. We still have even some unboxings to do.
Even maybe some unlisted. Some of you want to send in your
Yep.
funky Necron lists, and ideally with explanations of how you're going to use the things.
Yeah. So it gives us something that we can make sure that we pitch your army properly. So if you want to be in Unlisted, or if you've got army list suggestions you'd like talked about in Unlisted, send your army lists through along with a description of the key tactics that you would use with that army over to submissions@beastsofwar.com. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
That's correct. Other than that, we'll be doing army lists. We may have some painting stuff coming up, and we will definitely probably be filming some tips. Definitely,
Yes,
probably.
There's cheese to be had in them there tips.
There is cheese to be had. So this little video is just a wrap up. It's just we always do a first look, and then now we're doing this. We've had another week. We've had the community and all sorts of people involved throwing in their 2 cents. So this is just a wrap up of, this is probably more representative of our opinion than the first look is. Because the first look's always very difficult, because
First look we had the book for
fresh.
2-3 days.
Not even in this instance,
It's hard to form an opinion on 100 pages in 2 days.
Well, it doesn't stop you from trying, though, Daryl. Or me, for that matter. So, first off, though, I would like to thank Games Workshop for their magnificent tribute to Beasts of War on page 21 of the Codex. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, if you have seen my video from yesterday, you will have seen that they kindly took or borrowed our concept for the Necron megalith and made it a reality in the fluff. I'm delighted by that. That just shows everything goes full circle.
All them special rules I made.
All the special rules
we're
are in there.
expecting that in the next edition of the book.
It births everything. It was birthing Doomsday arcs, which of course we didn't come up with that bit, unfortunately.
We didn't know Doomsday
arcs.
It
birthed Immortals. It birthed monoliths.
Yes.
So we were absolutely delighted, and thanks for everybody that spotted that and sent that in. And a big thank you to Games Workshop. And we'd just like to say we give full permission to the entire world to build megaliths. Full permission. You don't even need to come to us for licensing. Just go and build the megaliths.
You can use my special rules all you want, and your mates will love to see you with them rules.
Yeah, but the megalith is the new Apocalypse unit. It's the new Apocalypse unit. The only thing is you'll have to buy 4 monoliths at least to be able to play. Maybe 5.
2 plus D3?
You have 5 monoliths. Anyway, the other thing is I have an acknowledgement to make to Matt Ward. I was a bit sore on Matt for the use of the word Tesla, which I just thought was a bit cheesy, a bit obvious, throwing Tesla in there. Yeah. However, what I didn't say at the time was he did use the word Gauss, or not him, but he based it on there was the use of the word Gauss. The only thing I can say is that when Gauss was used to describe a weapon, everything was being described from the perspective of the Imperium. So they would have used human terms. However, now
the Necrons are fully woken up.
The Necrons are no longer bleary-eyed metal Mickeys. No. They can now talk. So it's being described from the Necron point of view.
Yeah. Do we think the Necrons had a huge party before they went into, and that's why they're a bit hungover when they woke up?
Hungover.
They maybe had this huge, as there was nothing left in the galaxy, they maybe drank the last of the, if they had Castrol in them days.
Castrol.
Drank the last of the Castrol and had a huge party, and that's why they couldn't speak when they get up in the morning.
Which brings us nicely to the fluff itself, right? The fluff was a shock, right? As we've said in a
total departure.
Yeah, as we'd said in a previous video, we had our expectations of what Necrons were going to be like based on what Necrons had been like previously. However, you got to hand it to Matt Ward. He does go out on a limb. He will change stuff, and he's fearless in that sense, in that he will shake things up. I think if you were able to put the past aside and forget about how Necrons were until now, this fluff is better structured for hobbyists to be able to take Necron armies and do something completely unique with them, the way we can do with our Space Marines armies and things.
The only way prior to this, because I always seen Necrons as previously a huge mindless horde just marching forward.
Where they were all identical.
Yes, and I liked that as they were a huge horde walking forward. And the only way I saw to get some character into it was to have more Catan. Yeah. But supposedly the books are written, there's only 4 and you can't have any more. So there had to be some way of getting some more character into the book.
Well, he's succeeded in that. You know, it's definitely a very characterful army. And not only does it have a lot of character in the fluff, whether you like it or not, it's hard to dispute that there is a lot of character in there. But it's also been reflected in the rules and the makeup of the army. You know, we'll talk about the death ray and stuff in a minute, but there's not an enormous standout amount of cheese in the book. The cheese, you have to work to find the cheese and the combos and the tactics.
Yeah, as I've said previously, it's not as simple as everybody comes with a power weapon. You have to find balance between units.
Yeah.
You do, and that's what it all comes down to, and that's why I think it is a good book, even though I may have been slightly harsh on it. I do think it's a good book, but it'll take time to settle on everybody because it was such a huge departure from what it was previously.
Yeah. Now, it happens with every book. Previously, though, I haven't personally been as affected by it as this one because this was so different.
Yeah.
But anyway, you know, in general, it's hard to get used to, but in general, it's going to be a thumbs up because I'm looking forward to this point forward, seeing all the different varieties and kinds of Necron armies.
I don't see a single meta Necron army list. There's so many different ways you can go.
I don't even think we're going to see, even from a fluffy point of view, a narrative point of view, I think we're going to see a mass departure now, even in the color schemes of Necron armies, in the makeup of Necron armies, even in the customizations and the conversions and things like that can be done with Necron armies now. You know, Necrons were a good army for a couple of reasons before. Necrons are a great army for a bucket load of reasons now. And I think it far outweighs any of the kind of drawbacks and whatnot that might have been in it.
It is just such a huge departure. You know, it is a good army. It will just take time to settle on people that what they do now is completely different from what they did previously.
Yeah. So if you're going to do a Necron army, go mad. Do something. Come over to Beasts of War, set up a project blog, which is basically just set up a group and start posting your ideas in that group. Then post the pictures of what you've built in that group. Then post the pictures of what you've painted in that group. I want to see these different Necron armies and whatnot as they grow and as they're built. You know, I want to see bright orange Necron armies, you know, that have come from some other overlord thing where he is a collector of flowers.
So obviously now you can build your own overlord and give him any name you want.
You can give him any name you want. You can give him any background you want. Yes. He can be a collector of any kind of fine art.
Any kind of fine art. Tracy Emin, even if you want, you could have a tent at the back of your...
Well, I intend to at least spec out the Lawrence Llewellyn Bowden Necron army, which are a Necron army dedicated to the art of interior design.
Would they all be made out of MDF and be painted
No, but
purple?
they'll all have frilly cuffs. Anyway, talking about the actual army and how it plays. Like I said, it's not so easy to find the cheese in this. There are some. I'm going to stop talking about cheese now because when we talk about cheese is normally like a one-off, simple, repeatable thing that you can just do over and over again.
2 lashes where you lash again and again and again.
That's cheese. This book doesn't really contain cheese. Even if the death ray is ruled in the way we originally interpreted it, it's not really cheesy because the platform's easy to kill, and you know the death ray, if you were using it in that instance, you'd be trying to hit multiple units, and it's not going to be so easy to hit multiple units.
It's a one-shot deal. It's 175 points. Nobody's going to let you get a second shot with it unless you get really lucky, because you're going to have to, the thing's going to not be able to get a cover save or anything like that there, and it's armor 11, so pretty much everybody's going to have a shot at it.
Yeah. So whatever way it's ruled, it doesn't really matter. Even that is not particularly cheesy. However, in 4th edition, and to a lesser degree 5th edition, but definitely in 4th edition of the rules, Necrons to me were always about movement. And that was what set the Necron army aside from a lot of the other armies. You know, a lot of the other armies are very much get in there and bash, get into close combat. Tau very much hang at the back of the board, jump, shoot, jump, that kind of thing. Necrons, however, were always about sweeping movement. And I've got to hand it to Matt. He has brought that back.
Yes.
For me, he has brought that back. Necrons, to me, again, are very much about movement. And you can see that in the rules, how much the Necrons rely on movement. And by giving them a short range, so even short range snipers, which we kind of puzzled at the start, it kind of forces you to think of the Necrons from a movement capacity.
You have to combine the movement with some of the other rules, like keeping it dark the entire time and making the terrain difficult and dangerous. So you have to combine that short range where it makes you think more about them. You can't do that Space Wolfie thing where we've all got missile and we'll sit at the back of the board. You have to have balance in your army.
In saying that, we've been monitoring the comments and the discussions and things that are going on. There, at this particular moment in time, there's still a very heavy reliance on deep striking, and I think a lot of the discussions are over relying on deep striking because they're coming back to us with comments of, you know, how dare you say that unit is no good? You know, if you deep strike that unit in and then it does this, that, and the other, it can do wonders. Yet the operative there is you have to deep strike it in, and anytime you deep strike a unit in, you have the opportunity to lose that unit. So
Necrons don't have any of the stuff that even bog standard Marines have with like drop pods where you
homing beacons.
They have one unit, them scarabs that can infest a vehicle and you get to land within 6 inches of it, some of your units, but they don't have this overall thing like Blood Angels and whatnot, only scatter 1 dice. Deep strike on some of these units is dangerous. I have used deep strike and it has worked previously for me, but it is dangerous, guys. I ideally wanted a Necron army where everybody had a Veil of Darkness. I could deep strike all over the board. But it can backfire on you as well.
Yeah, it can backfire. And here's the thing. You know, there's no rule that's more fun in the game than deep striking. So I'm not suggesting for a second that deep strike itself is a bad rule or something that you should just avoid all units at deep strike. There's 2 ways to look at this. From tournament play, Necrons are going to be a very interesting army for tournament players to play. But you'll probably stay away from deep strike
in general, tournament players, unless you're Blood Angel, stay away from deep strike and the randomness of it. Grey Knights might chance deep striking, but that's the way I look at deep striking from a tournament point of view. I don't do it.
It's a difficult one. However, from a game with your mate's point of view, it is fantastic. And the fact that the Necrons deep strike all over the bloody place is fantastic. So it's just a double-edged sword, that one. You know, if you're looking at this army from a tournament point of view, you'll probably, like us, you'll be looking at it and going, I'm just going to ignore a lot of the deep strike rule. I'm looking for tactics that are easy to pull off, don't have too much of a random nature to it, and are repeatable, that I can actually use them again, it's not a case of, if I don't have everything absolutely perfect, I've missed my opportunity to use it.
Coming from a tournament point of view, you don't see anything that's random at the top end of a tournament. It's all predictable.
Yeah.
You know exactly what it's going to do all the time.
So, what are a couple of the items of tactics, or cheesy tactics, but tactics that have come up? Darryl, you have one called the conga line that your mate Rowan has been...
Rowan off the website, who's quite vocal on the Necron, came up with this because I was chatting to him yesterday and he had these big box of Necrons who just arrived in his house. Basically, you can deploy your unit of Scarabs and you can use your spiders, Canoptech spiders, to produce more Scarabs. 1 each. You can have 9 of these spiders. And for each base of Scarabs, you have to place it in coherency with the unit. This all seems straightforward.
Yes.
So in turn 1, you deploy these as far forward as you can. If you're playing pitched battle, you're 24 inches apart. And you start with your spiders anywhere up to 9 going, This spider's producing one, I place it in coherency. This spider's producing one, I place it in coherency. This spider's producing one, I place it in coherency. And if you're going first in turn one, you're assaulting the other guy's vehicle because you've got beast movement, you've got fleet, and you've got your normal, you've got the beast 12-inch assault, you've got fleet, and you've got your normal movement. All of a sudden, you're onto the other guy, maybe even multiple combat in a couple of vehicles before he can do anything.
And all because if that's close enough, the rest just pile in.
Well, yes and no. It depends how many of these guys you'll get in. But whenever you think these guys are coming with 5 attacks on the charge, if it's turn one, the other guy hasn't moved, they're hitting the vehicle automatically. And on a 4+, you're getting rid of a point of armor. So even if you get 3 of these in, you're going, well, that's 15 attacks. On a 4+, it's 7, 8 points off the armor, and then they get the roll to penetrate. And it's very painful. If you get a good fleet, because of the rules of everybody within 2 inches of somebody who's in the combat, you can potentially get everybody in.
Yeah.
But it's a one-trick pony. If you play this with your mate, he'll see what you've done, and the next day his vehicles will be further back, and there'll be warriors or something in front of them. But it is one of them things that you can use.
It's a tasty little one. You can try it for a bit of fun. Another one, I've got it written down here because I just wanted to make sure I got it right, is another tip that appeared on the website. Sorry, I don't know who to credit this to because it pitched in the forums, but I think it came from the comments somewhere earlier. And that is a Catan with the time arrow, partnered up with a unit of wraiths with whip coils. Okay, and what happens is you would use the wraiths to bring the enemy down to initiative 1.
Yep.
So especially if you could, like in your Space Wolf command unit or whatever, if I can get my wraiths and this guy in there, I can bring that unit down to initiative 1 and then use the time arrow on the independent character because he's an independent character, you can pick him out from a unit.
You can make them disappear. There is some other good thing, them scarabs that make you hit your own unit if you fail a leadership test. There is some good combos in there.
Yeah.
And the other magic portal that makes the guy disappear into another dimension.
So in general, from a rules point of view, you've got to hand it to Matt Ward. He's done a good job, actually. There's so much depth. And
there is.
It's very, very interesting how whenever you combine different units and things like that, the different effects that can stack up.
Exactly. Once I first looked at the spiders, I thought, these are a bit pointless. But then once you realise you can do Conga Line of Death and you can be an anti-psyker, because you're going to pretty much have to castle up your Necron army. I don't see them spread out a lot. Some units do come into it very quickly. They do. So,
which leads us to the things that were done really well, which leads us to some of the things that weren't done so well. One is obviously the death ray. We have our opinion on it, and contrary to what you might think, our opinion is the rule just wasn't written well.
Yes, exactly. The rule wasn't written well. It's a bit up in the air, but
it's very difficult because if you interpret it exactly as the English language would require you to interpret it, then it would mean that you're calculating the number of models in a unit. However, a lot of detractors, and a lot of detractors actually were from overseas, who looked at it and thought, how can you possibly interpret it that way? It's so clear. The difficulty is a lot of foreign languages and whatnot. The way you construct sentences and things like that, there sometimes you have words reversed from the way we
compared
do,
to English,
or we have words reversed from the way you do. So your interpretation of a sentence might be quite different from
again,
ours.
It happens in some of the books as well that the sentence is set out slightly differently, which makes it clearer in other languages than it is in English. And sometimes the wording is slightly different in different languages, because I know I come up previously with Lightning Claw, Power Fist, and getting rerolls, and one of the guys from Germany says, well, in the German book it actually says you can't do this, but in the English book it didn't. So it's an interesting. It can be a translation thing.
Let's be honest here. Beasts of War during a themed week are always going to get up to a bit of mischief and look to try and push a bit of cheese. But that aside, this particular rule wasn't well written. It does require an FAQ because I still believe it could go either way, to be honest, but it wasn't well written. It needs an FAQ, and we're now a week in. How hard is it for somebody in Nottingham to ask Matt, what was it you actually meant about this? Type it up and release it on the website. It's not that hard.
I believe a few different people have phoned them and have got different answers each time.
Yes, there's been people who have been phoning Games Workshop and have been getting different answers. Some have been hearing our interpretation of it is to be played until an FAQ finally comes out and sorts it out. Others have been hearing the opposite, that it's the other interpretation. Do you know what? At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. What will be the defining moment is, for me, the Death Scythe won't be quite as good a vehicle.
Yeah.
Not sure just how usable.
It still
nerf that whole.
It still is a very good transport vehicle if you use the alternative version. As the night side, it's a very good transport vehicle that there's a lot of great options with. Mm-hmm. And if I had bought something, or they're going to release these soon, I wouldn't be disappointed if I had something.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be, because I think.
On the grapevine, we are hearing that the second wave is done. It's ready. It's getting ready now for general release. I can't see anything come out between now and Christmas. It's that time of year where normally it's Christmas present-y type stuff.
Yeah, packages
that would have been out. Like the mega paint sets and big terrain pieces, stuff that's easy for parents to go and pick up. That apply to anybody's army.
Something that's universal. You don't want your mother bringing you home some blood angels when you collect orcs or something.
But next year, we definitely we're hearing vampire counts. We're hearing 6th edition. We're hearing Necron second wave. Who knows? Perhaps even a Tau could make an appearance.
I even got an email from somebody who's saying this is the 6th edition rules, but I don't think it's correct.
We'll have to wait and see. Remember, you can join the Mini Wargaming Beasts of War competition to win a $500 Necron spending spree over at Mini Wargaming. All you have to do is get your pencil and paper out. So we're not looking for high-tech Catan or Overlordish type equipment. Just get a pen and pencil, bottle tops, clay, whatever it is you're going to do, because you're just going to do a concept for a unit that you would have liked to have seen in the Necron book. There is a post on that on the homepage, so if you find that, you can click in there and you can upload your entry directly into there. And we will be picking one that's the best, not necessarily the best drawn, but just the best general concept and idea. Finally, in a nutshell, Daryl, how would you rate the Necron book? If you had to wrap it up in a nutshell?
I think if I hadn't read the previous book, I'd be totally happy with it. The fluff, separate it at the very beginning. I think it's a good book. In a nutshell, it's a good book.
Yeah?
Yes.
So from tournament play, would you be happy to set aside your Space Wolves for the
I will be setting aside my Space Wolves. I'm just waiting for... See, once you do a Necron week, at the end of the week, you don't want to see Necrons for a while. So the other thing from a tournament point of view, it's not legal from my next proper tournament that I'm going to, so I can't just go jumping in to Necrons. And anyway, I'm drawing up a design for a new unit to get that $500
Oh, you drawing it up to get your army?
Yes, and I'm not going to tell anybody what it is.
Well, you've heard it here first, folks, that even Daryl is planning on jumping back to Necrons. The army that was your first ever army at 40k and the army you love.
I walked in the shop, I saw the old book. I think the cover artwork in the old book's great now. I'm having them. I didn't know what they did.
Yeah.
I'm having them, boys.
For me, the Necrons have been a very, very interesting release. For me, the Necrons previously were always a great starter army. They were easy to paint, easy to play. It was play by numbers a lot of the time with the Necrons. The units were all the same. Since then, they started to get a wee bit old, a bit nerfed, and they lacked a lot of character, at which point my starter army kind of switched to Grey Knights, which again were easy to paint and reasonably paint by numbers to play those guys. There are some complexities there. However, Necrons are now out again, and I have to say I wouldn't be afraid to recommend them to a new player to the game. I'd be saying, you have an army here that if you wanted, it's very easy to paint, but you have the ability to create a very unique backstory. You can create very unique flavor of an army, and you have units galore and all sorts of models and flying ships and everything that over the next few months you're going to be able to choose from. That Necrons as a hobby, big thumbs up, big thumbs up. I just have to get used to Tarzan the Infinite. Guys, thanks for watching Necron Week. It's been an absolute pleasure bringing it to you. We've loved the Necrons, and as every day goes past, I'm loving them just that little bit harder. I'm off to get a monolith now to do all sorts of strange things to me. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. Next week, we're looking at Dystopian War.